Horse Talk, where we are going to talk about the problem with treats that nobody's talking about. And I'm not talking about horses becoming nippy or pushy or, I don't know, disrespectful from getting treats. This is not what we're going to talk about because that doesn't really have anything to do with the treats. The treats are not causing this, it's the timing of the treats that causes it. Just like whips aren't bad, it's how they are used that is bad. So you can't really say that treats are bad and whips are bad. None of these are either good or bad, they just are. It's how they are used that makes them, more or less functional. Yes, so it's not about the horses becoming nippy and pushy and that stuff, which can of course easily happen if we time the giving of the positive reinforcement wrong. Because when using positive reinforcement or treats, we get what we reward. So if we, for instance, are, teaching our horse to wave with the front legs, and we reward the horse for that behavior, then the horse is going to wave the front legs more. And if the horse, while waving the front legs, is doing it to get the treats, you have just rewarded your horse for, becoming pushy and scraping for treats. Yes, so we need to be mindful of how we use them, but that's not the fault of the treats. It's the fault of the timing of the treats. Yes, what I'm going to talk about is something that nobody that uses positive reinforcement ever mentions. And that is that when we use positive reinforcement, we very much stand the risk of using negative punishment. And this might seem a bit confusing, right? Because positive is good, right? And negative is bad. But in this context, which is then reinforcement context, positive means adding and negative means taking away. And with that in mind, it instantly makes sense. Because when then using positive reinforcement, which can be treats, we are adding something, giving the horse something to, obviously get something back. And the opposite side of that coin is not giving something to punish. You take something away to punish. So if I, for instance, say to my son, if you do the dishes, you can get a lollipop. That's basically the same as saying to him, if you don't do the dishes, you are not going to get the lollipop. And the if you do the dishes, you are going to get a lollipop is the positive reinforcement, because I'm giving him something for something. But me saying, if you don't do the dishes, you're not going to get the lollipop is negative punishment. I'm taking the lollipop away to punish him for not doing the dishes. Yes. And this, of course, is easier to both prevent and be aware of when we communicate with each other with words. But if we are training a horse with positive reinforcement, we can very, very easily turn that into negative punishment because we don't have the means of communicating with the horse through words. It's just like this for that. And if you don't do it, you are not going to get it. That's the kind of the underlying premises of positive reinforcement is actually negative punishment. Yes, so I just wanted you to be aware of this because I see so much about like I train my horses and I only use positive reinforcement because I don't want to punish my horse. Well, there's a high risk that you are actually negatively punishing your horse. by using positive reinforcement, because the one cannot exist without the other. Just like the opposite side of the coin of negative reinforcement is positive punishment. And this is going to be very easy for you to understand once you know that negative is taking away and positive is adding. Yes, so hello Tone, nice to see you. So the premises for negative reinforcement is that if we reinforce too much, it's going to become positive punishment. But the easy part with the positive punishment is that we are usually aware when positive punishment happens. It doesn't happen silently and without anyone noticing. If we, for instance, use the whip to ask the horse to move the hind end over as a signal, we tap the horse on the butt, which can be very beneficial because it's actually a lot kinder to the horse to, show them that I need this. When I give you leg aid, I want this part of your body to move. So it's easier for the horse to understand. And it's also more comfortable for the horse than if we, escalate our leg aid and start kicking the horse in the ribs. So I use the whip a lot when training horses to, teach them which part of their body do I want them to move. So for instance, when I teach the horses to ride without reins, before doing that, I teach them, how to move off the neck rope. And then first I pick up the rein like this. And they don't usually understand that they're supposed to then, move their shoulder. So then I, use the whip to move the shoulder. That is negative reinforcement, because when the horse has moved the shoulder, I stop tapping with the whip. But it becomes, punishment if I start wanking the horse and punishing the horse with the whip and hitting them hard. But you don't need a whip to do that. Bumping on the reins is also a punishment. But we become aware when a signal escalates into punishment. But with the positive reinforcement, we don't necessarily become aware of what the horse is actually thinking. Yes, so that's what I just wanted to talk about. And I also find it almost a little bit manipulative to use treats to get horses and other animals to do stuff. Because we are then controlling a resource they only get access to when they do certain things. We control the resource and they get pieces of it when they do what we want them to do. And in this way, we can obviously get animals to do a lot of stuff. But if it also has this element of negative punishment, because if they're not doing this stuff, they're not going to get the reward, right? And with humans, it's often said that would you work without a salary? Yeah, I probably wouldn't work for somebody else without getting a salary. But when I'm communicating with my kids, I'm not always giving them money for every little thing they do around in the house, right? I'm not always, sometimes they get paid for doing stuff. But I would feel that if my relationship with my kids were based on me paying them for everything they do, I would find that kind of a bit of a hollow relationship. Like the only thing that matters to them is money, which isn't necessarily the case. They are also want to be, part of a family and do stuff together, and that has a value in itself. Yes, so just be aware of that. And let me know in the comments below if you use positive reinforcement or negative reinforcement, or maybe both. Yes, it's actually very, very hard to be around the horse and never use any kind of negative reinforcement. The moment we pick up on the lead rope to lead the horse, we are basically using negative reinforcement. But that doesn't mean that we need to use pressure and release. We can use feel. We can use, just picking up the lead rope as a signal when we release on the right thing. So the release is actually more important than the pressure in negative reinforcement. And the pressure doesn't have to be pressure. We can operate through feel. If we are aware of the release and time the release right is more important than the pressure. Yes. So if we pick up on the lead and nothing happens, and we then release and then get the horse to go forwards and give the horse a treat, we have kind of taught the horse that picking up the lead rope doesn't mean anything. And that very often makes the horse then difficult to lead, for instance, because the release becomes wrong in a way. Yes. So just be aware of that. So I think if we're using negative reinforcement, we need to be very much aware of where is the release. It's not so much about the pressure, it's about the release. Yes, and I think if we use positive reinforcement, we need also to be aware of that we get what we reward. So if the horse becomes pushy and nippy from getting treats, it's not about the treats, it's about the timing. And we also need to be aware that we don't use them in a way to manipulate the horse to do stuff, that we can also do stuff, without the treats. And I don't think that's necessarily mean to not use treats when training a horse. It can actually be just as mean as using, other means of punishment. It's just a different way of punishing. Yes. So that's that for you right there. So yeah, next time somebody asks about what reinforcement method you use, then at least be aware that, there is an element of punishment that can happen both with negative reinforcement and with positive reinforcement. Yes, and we want to avoid it. And if you want to avoid being depending on treats and using positive reinforcement, and you want to avoid using punishment and pressure on your horse, then I actually have an exercise for you that makes you more valuable to your horse than treats. Because horses, they are flight animals and they are also herd animals. And they value present company over food. So you might have noticed that horses with separation anxiety, they will stop eating when away from other horses, because being together with other horses is more valuable to them than the food. And with this exercise, we can become, the herd for the horse when together with the horse. And this is something they value more than treats, because their survival is obviously more important than food. And we can, through our presence and the way we handle the horse and communicate with them, actually become the one taking the guard, who makes the horse feel safe and also makes horses follow us at liberty. Plus, it actually also solves a whole bunch of problems without needing to use force or win any battles with the horse. So this is the number one exercise I do with any horse. And you can now actually get it absolutely free of charge. So if you comment yes below, I will send you the link on DM. Or you can go to ridelikeaviking.no/connection and you will get instant access, absolutely free of charge. And within 20 minutes, you will have become the treat when training your horse. So you will not need positive reinforcement, and you will also definitely not need to use any positive punishment, because horses are depending on other beings for their survival, and we can become that being. So you are actually enough just by being you. You don't need the carrots and you don't need whip once you understand this. Yes, so I hope to see you there. And this exercise has helped thousands of equestrians all over the world solve the most unbelievable problems. Yes. So I would give it a try. And if you want instant access, then comment yes below, and I will see you on the inside of the free training. Okay, thank you so much for this evening, and thank you so much for joining, and bye for now.